regarding an incident, which is the reason why I'm sitting here making this live stream to this very day. So if they call me again, I'll have to click off of here. But anywho, you guys, I want to talk about the prodigal son. A lot of people, they think that the prodigal son has to do with you just disobeying your parents, taking your inheritance, squandering it, realizing that the only way to live and going back to the father. Yes, but no. The real thing that's happening here is that we're all born with an inheritance. We are the children of God. You know, we have these dreams, we have these visions, and we get that. And then one day, God makes that inheritance known to us. Now, you are both the prodigal son and you're both the logical son. But for some odd reason at church, they only focus on the prodigal son who ran off and squandered his inheritance, essentially ran off and squandered his ability to live the dream in the world, realized that he was down to nothing, and it was surely his will that led him back to his father. And what it says in there is that when he was still a long way off, his father and came to meet him. That's important. We'll get back to that later. But like I said, in the very beginning of that story, God, the Father, he gives both of his children an equal inheritance. So he gives the prodigal child his inheritance, the dream, the vision. He also gives the logical child his inheritance, the dream, the vision. The thing is, most of us, we don't really act like the prodigal child, or at least we don't notice that we do. We act like the logical one. He didn't do anything with his inheritance. He just kept on doing what he thought was right, following the past in order to get to where he wanted to go. This is akin to you wanting to start an orphanage, but you just go to work at the car lot every single day because that pays bills and it'll get you the house and it'll get you, the family and all. It'll seem like it's building or sustaining or maintaining the kingdom, but it never really allows you to build that legacy. Another thing that happens is you don't really live a life worth celebrating. That was happened with the logical one, even though they were throwing a celebration for the return, for coming back to the father. He was like, that's not fair. And we never really learn if he actually went into the tent to enjoy the celebration that comes with the return. Do you see what I'm saying here? We're all given this dream, this vision, this hope, but because we live based off of what society, what life tells us to do, we don't often end up really celebrating a return to God because we don't really see that as something we should do. We think that we're right there with him our entire lives. And I call this is church folks. They think that they are right there with God and Jesus their entire lives. There is no turning back that they need to do. So they never quite recognize that, no, you were given a far higher purpose, far higher vision that you just never lived out. But you got your house and you got your kids and yay, you just continued on whatever was already set before you did continue on. The real thing here is to be like the prodigal son, is to get that vision, is to get that dream and go out into the world and realize that the world can't make anything happen for me. We all get to this point of really like, I don't have anything else to give God. I can't. And we all know the phrase where there's a will, there's a way. That's what the prodigal son had. He had a will, and that was it. He didn't have any money, he didn't have anything. He was even saying, I am willing to go back and work practically as a servant in my own house, Lord, just to get back to you. And it was that will and the steps towards going back home, and God met him halfway. I'm telling you, that's what's happening in my life right now. And it's not just those moments where we get the big vision. We get little visions too, and we have to decide who's going to be living out that vision. Is it the prodigal son who recognizes that, Lord, I can't do this without you? Like, all I need right now is the will. I know that you're going to make a way. All I have to do is keep taking these steps in faith, and we're going to be like him. Which, when you make it sound like that, it's like, maybe I should be like the prodigal son. Maybe I should recognize that the ways of the world ain't going to make this dream come true for me. Going to make me be able to have these visions? Or are we going to be like the logical one that just kind of, yeah, it's nice that God is telling me that to dream bigger and hope for more, but I got to go to work. I have bills to pay. Who's just going to keep on carrying on the way that they already know to carry on and completely miss out on the celebration. So I have something happening to me. Last month, God told me I was going to Dubai, and He said I was going to be out there by June. It's 4:44. But He said that I was going to be out there by June 25th. So as soon as I to go to Dubai. One way, I know that they were like, you need round trip, all this other stuff. I said, God's going to make a way. But no sooner did I purchase a ticket that it refunded me. Now, what are the odds that you buy an airline ticket and it gets refunded? Like it's zero. And so I took that not as the cold door, but just the realization that whoa, this is bigger than me, and God's gonna let me do it. But for the past month, I've been the logical one. I've been sitting here like, God, when are you going to send me the money? When are you going to do this? And I've been trying to pick up extra shifts and do, and that's why my job was calling me. I had been working that much. And then when I said, oh, I got to pay for going to Dubai, I went ahead and took on a case. And the grandpa decided that he needed to put his hand down my boobs. If you follow me on the rest of this, you kind of probably seen that video, and what that cost for me. But that was just another nope. I'm making it very difficult for you to play around in the world like this, sweetheart. So I after that, I just didn't really want to work like that, and I hadn't. And I've gotten down to that point to where God's going to have to make a way, and I'm settled in knowing that all things are taken care of, even though I don't have the resources to do that. And it suddenly clicked to me today. God needs me to be the prodigal son. He needs me to be at the point to where I am no longer following logic, this step, that step, that step, that step, and I am simply doing. I'm coming back to Him with nothing more than the will to be in his presence. And he told me, he said, Alicia, if you're going to Dubai this week, you should probably start acting like that, which is what the prodigal son did. If you want to go home, you should probably start acting like you're going home. Take steps to do that. And so for me, those steps are getting the house clean, making a particular dress that I need to make. I'm sitting here staring at the fabric now. Um, and just putting stuff in order. And he said, I'll meet you halfway. And I know this to be true because the same thing happened to me last year when I was in St. Thomas. I didn't, they don't have Uber out there, you guys. So I was up like in the hills, in a lovely little villa. Thank you for that, Jesus, for arranging that. Really one of the best times of my life. But that I had to walk down to go get food, and there was this really busy street. In America, they'll hit you, and there was no way to walk. It was like grass on each side. I was like, I want to have to walk into the street. And so God was like, if you just make it down to the end of the road, which is the hill to get to the busy road, I'll meet you there. Like I heard that audibly, I'll meet you there. And I waited for hours. It was like 2 hours before I walked down to the end of the road. And I stood there for a little bit, cars just zooming by, not knowing. And then I see this guy walking, and I stopped him. Long story short, for a little bit, I walked behind him and I started walking with him. And he let me know that they are aware that I'm going to run you over. It's okay. And I felt safe. And that was one of those times where God let me know He would meet me there. I just had to show up. I could have stayed up there starving. There was a little fruit across the street. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't pick some. But there's a little fruit across the street that I could have nibbled on that, for the next 2 days. Or I could walk down and, be obedient. So I did. And so he was telling me the same thing today. I don't need you to have the ticket. I don't need you to have the money. I don't need you to have the way. I don't need your logic getting in the way of this and you trying to do it yourself. I'm not telling you to go out there and forage for food. There's a whole festival, literally, Lupe Fiasco. 10 best beaches in the world. Lupe Fiasco was throwing a concert. There was a wing fest happening. All this party was literally down there, and I am up here in the hills just needing to be obedient, and I would get there. So I saw that story play out where if you just listen to God and you start taking the steps, even though you think you're going to run into fear, you're not, you're going to run into Him. And so that's where a lot of us are. He's been giving us glimpses, He's been giving us dreams, He's been giving us visions, but we keep on handing it over to the logical one who does absolutely nothing with it and just keeps on carrying on with the things that they're doing, upset that everybody else is partying and they're not. Or you could be like the prodigal son, recognize that I don't have any way to make any of this happen. Let me just go. Let me just be with my father and be a servant. And that's where I'm at. I'm going to be a servant to the Lord. And so I did. I cleaned things, I moved things, including within myself. And I do not doubt for 1 second that the floodgates have opened and God is sending me on my way. And I hope that it works out for you guys to say, wait, no different. Like I said, the whole thing with the job happened weeks ago. And that's what kind of pushed me into this. There's no going back to that because although I'm going to do foster care and I'm going to be with disabled kids and all that other stuff, this it's going to happen. I kind of recognized that I needed to be in a space where I could exercise authority and have the respect for what I did there. And I was never going to be able to live my highest purpose of healing in those types of environments. The thing is, when I reported that that old man grabbed my boob, I'm not gonna lie, the little case manager tried to make it seem like somehow, "Well, why did I wait so long? You didn't say that he grabbed you. She literally said, you didn't say that he grabbed your breast. You said that he put his hand down your shirt." And now, weeks later, he recognized that that criminal sexual battery